Hey you guys, my name is Damien. I chose to do my interview paper on a woman named Sonia Viveros. She is from El Salvador. She now lives in America, but she's from El Salvador. She happens to be my best friend's aunt, so it was very easy getting it all set up. But let's get into what we talked about in our interview, and I'm gonna start here at machismo, machismo. I couldn't quite get the pronunciation right on it, but it's basically this masculine pride. There's a big sense in culture there of masculine pride. The men, in sense, have superiority, is how I'm going to kind of say it. The roles, of course, are traditional because, traditionally men have been the breadwinner. They've been the one to protect and provide for the family, while the woman just caretakes, basically. But in El Salvadorian culture, I'm going to say it's probably a little bit more than what we think traditionally. At least here in America, what we could think of. Some may say we have this problem here, and some may say we don't. But it's a little bit more extended, a little bit bigger, I think, in El Salvador. Just kind of based on some of the conversation we had. Her mom did work. She wasn't just a stay-at-home wife, the one that cleans and cooks and takes care of the kids. She did do that. Her mom did do that, but you got to have a job, but most of the time it's not a big job, not like a lawyer or a doctor or someone in a factory or whatnot. Her dad was a leather worker. Her dad did work in a factory. Her dad was the breadwinner, following cultural norms there. And that's one thing that she did note that has changed some, not to the level in which she wishes, but some women now in El Salvadorian culture are becoming lawyers and doctors and things in that nature, which is progress, of course, and good progress. So now let's talk about the gang-related violence and kind of how it impacts their government. Their government is set up much like us, presidential democracy, but unlike in America, and maybe you think American, politics are a little screwed too, but gangs kind of control the politics here. There have been times where you see transactions between politicians and gangs, or just times gangs plain out scare a candidate into dropping out or saying something dumb or just losing in some sort of manner in El Salvadorian culture. So gangs kind of control the power, it sounds like, in El Salvador. Even though that there's typical normal life, I would say, other than gangs, of course, I would assume, and she even noted that El Salvadorians get misconstrued as violent people because of the amount of gang violence that happens in El Salvador. But what do they do for entertainment? I'm sure that sometimes being out with what she seemed to note as big gang-related violence be interesting, but they love to do the beach. They love football or soccer in America is how we would phrase it. Soccer is very prevalent down there. Baseball also has some prevalence down there as well. Basketball as well. Those are the three big sports in El Salvador. And family, which I thought, yeah, that is a form of entertainment. I've never really put it as such, but yeah, I get that. And so let's shift into the family. Of course, as I noted, traditional role values, men and women, but it's very important. Family is very, very important in El Salvadorian culture. It is something that they kind of lived in, right? Their family was always close-knit, always there for each other, and that's huge. It even gave her kind of religious background, which is Roman Catholic, which is the main religion in El Salvador, Christianity, but Catholicism and Christianity is the main religion. They, of course, do the sacraments of baptism, confirmation, all the normal things that you would expect, a Catholic church to do. But we also see that the family, while being such a prevalent thing in El Salvadorian culture, takes up time, a lot of it, and they celebrate all their religious stuff with the family. They celebrate normal holidays such as Christmas, New Year's Eve, birthdays, of course, and then quinceañera is, of course, the biggest difference, I would say. Like in American culture, quinceañera, girls typically don't get a 15th birthday that signifies them from childhood to adulthood. That typically happens at 18, but we just call it your 18th birthday, which I thought was interesting, something I did know beforehand, but was very interesting to hear her kind of talk about. Lastly, the last thing that I'm going to note is kind of how marriage works within the family. When a man and a wife, or a man and a woman, when a man and a woman get married in El Salvadorian culture, their last name, you know, say, for example, my last name's Kennedy. So if I marry somebody, let's say her name is Elena, and her last name would go from Elena, last name Smith, Elena Smith, D. Kennedy, right? That would be the name. Instead of, you know, in American culture, would be Elena Kennedy, but it would be Elena Smith D. Kennedy is how they do it in El Salvadorian culture, which I also thought was very, very cool. But anyways, I'm glad I got some time just to kind of share with you how my interview went. I'm very thankful for this time. It's been a great eye-opening experience for me. Thank you guys.